Hi, fifth grade team. This is Miss Corkins presenting our first lesson today. This is for science. This is chapter 1, titled Producers, Consumers, and Decomposers. Hi, everybody. Hi, boys and girls. My awesome fifth graders. I hope you are all doing really well during our break. I hope you're safe and healthy. And you are excited as I am to start this remote learning. So a couple of things. Today I'm going to be presenting you information for chapter 1. I'm going to be reading the chapter with you. You're going to need your packet open to the reader that's available in your packet. I do expect that you will follow along and you read with me as we go through the lesson today. I will pose certain questions, some things for you to think about to help you to comprehend the material that you are reading. I will also explain in detail my expectations for the assignment that follows after the reading. So you do have a really quick worksheet to do at the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today our objective is I can explain where organisms get the energy they need for living and growing. And today we'll be reading chapter 1 of Energy and Matter in Ecosystems. So our agenda today is to read chapter 1 and then it is to go over our post-reading activity. Chapter 1, Producers, Consumers, and Decomposers. Today's big question is, where do organisms get the energy they need for living? Some scientists suggest that there are almost 9 million different kinds of living things or organisms on Earth. But wait, how do you know if something is living? Ask yourself the following questions. Does it need food? Living things cannot survive without energy they get from food. Some living things make their own food. Some get food from other living things. Does it grow? All living things grow and change throughout their lives. Even the mighty elephant begins life as a tiny organism. Does it reproduce? Living things reproduce to make an offspring or more of their species. Is it made of cells? A cell is the smallest living part of an organism. Some organisms are made of only one cell that can do everything needed to stay alive. Most living things, such as plants and animals, are made of more than one cell. You can see living cells by using a microscope. So I want you to think. Look at the bottom picture. It shows a sea cucumber on the top, and on the bottom it shows a rock. What makes the sea cucumber alive, and what makes the rock not? Think about it by asking these questions to yourself. Next, we're going to be learning about producers. What is a producer? When you get hungry, you must get a chemical energy from the food you eat. Imagine being able to make your own food without even moving. A producer is a living thing that makes its own food. Plants, algae, and some one-celled organisms are producers. Every producer, no matter what, no matter how large or small, makes its own food. It transforms one kind of energy into the chemical energy it needs to live. Most producers need sunlight, water, and air to survive. Why? Because these are the things producers, such as plants, transform into stored energy and food. So how do producers make food? Have you ever noticed that most plants are green? This is because their leaves and stems contain a chemical called chlorophyll. To make food, a plant needs chlorophyll, sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide gas from air. The producer absorbs sunlight to make food. The type of food producers make is a kind of sugar called glucose. Producers can use glucose right away. as food or store the glucose for later. In the process of making glucose, the producer releases oxygen back into the air. If you look at the diagram below, it kind of shows that process. So it shows the sun transferring their energy into that chlorophyll cell that is a part of the leaf of that plant. Again, this with carbon dioxide is what helps the plant to make sugar called glucose. And then, as a result, the producer is able to release oxygen back into the air. So plants use energy from sunlight to make glucose from water and carbon dioxide, but plants can use the sugar right away or store it away for later. I want you to stop and think. Think about a producer that you see every day. How do you know it is a producer? For example, Miss Corkins has a cactus. A cactus, or cacti, is a producer. I know it's a producer because it uses the process of photosynthesis to help it to grow and stay alive. Now think, do you know a different type of producer besides cacti? What is it? So now we're going to talk about consumers. What is a consumer? Unlike producers that make their own food, at lunchtime you go to the cafeteria to eat. How do other living things get their food? Consumers are living things that get energy from consuming or eating other living things. Consumers cannot make their own food like producers do. So think, are you a producer or a consumer? Do you make your food through the process plants use? No, you get it from other living things. The picture shows two organisms commonly found in pond water. A green alga is shown at the top. It is a producer. You can tell it contains chlorophyll because of the green color. And amoeba is shown at the bottom picture. Amoebas are consumers that move around in the water and absorb the food they consume. So how do consumers get food? Some consumers eat producers. Some consumers eat other consumers. Consumers such as barnacles and oysters remain in one place and take in food from the surrounding water. Many consumers move from place to place in different ways. Some move with legs, the way people do. Others crawl, fly, or swim. Compare the structures of the stingray, sea star, and snake. How does each of these animals move to get its food? Some consumers, such as barnacles, attached to a whale, do not move as adults. They anchor themselves to some other object and strain food out of the water. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pictures below. The stingray swims through the water and along the sea floor to find their food. Sea stars swim or walk on the sea floor to catch their food. Snakes slither and strike to catch their food. And barnacles often attach themselves to things that move, such as a whale's tail. So a scavenger and a decomposer. What are scavengers and decomposers? All organisms produce waste throughout their lifetime and eventually die and are broken down. If these materials were not broken down, they would pile up and bury us. Many times the first step to breaking down these materials, down falls to the scavengers. Scavengers are animals that feed on dead plant and animal material. Scavengers tend to live at the bottom of the ecosystems, as this is where dead material tends to settle. In a forest, you can find scavengers such as earthworms and millipedes under a piece of bark or soil. crab, shrimp, and lobster can be found at the bottom of the bodies of water. Let's look at some of these pictures below. The first picture on the top is showing a hermit crab. It feeds on both living and dead plants and animals. So this is why he is a scavenger. Below shows a dung beetle. Rolls dung into balls before storing and eating the dung, which could contain dead plant and animal matter. Earthworms burrow through soil and eat dead plant matter, so that's why they are a scavenger. Stop and think. How do scavengers grow and thrive? What do you think would happen to our ecosystems if decomposers and scavengers didn't exist? You may click to the next slide when you have answered the question. The next section, we're going to talk about decomposers. So decomposers are organisms that complete the breakdown of organic materials. Decomposers remove any chemical energy from what remains and returns the remaining matter to the soil. Some decomposers that return matter from other living things to the soil are fungi and bacteria. Why do forests have so many mushrooms growing in them? Because mushrooms, types of fungi, have so much material to decompose in a forest. Almost all fungi are decomposers. Fungi use energy from once living materials to live and grow. Fungi also break the materials down into smaller pieces. Bacteria are microscopic organisms that are found everywhere. You have bacteria inside and all over the outside of your body. Many bacteria help keep you healthy. There are also bacteria that are harmful to many things. Bacteria are also decomposers that extract the last little bits of nutrients and energy out of once living material. So, why do living things need food? Think about all of the activities you do every day. You need energy to do them. Going to school, playing sports, and reading a book all take chemical energy. Remember, that energy is the ability to cause a change. Chemical energy is required for the processes in your body that keep you alive. Living things need energy for keeping warm, moving, repairing, damage, and growing. Where do you get energy to do these things? From the food you eat. Living things need chemical energy to move. Organisms need chemical energy to move and grow. This means that they need food in one form or another. Animals get their food from plants or other animals. One way they use that energy is by moving around to find more food, or in moving to escape being food for something else. For example, look at the picture below. Lions need chemical energy to move. They get the chemical energy by eating other animals. The energy they gain helps them to move and find more food. Wildebeests need chemical energy in order to help them escape. Not only do living things need energy to move, but they also need chemical energy to keep warm. Most organisms cannot survive if their bodies become too hot or too cold. For example, the average internal temperature of a human body is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The polar bear's internal body temperature is about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit as well. In the polar bear's cold environment, it must use a lot of energy from food to maintain the internal body warmth. Even animals such as turtles and frogs, which don't maintain a constant body temperature, need to be warm enough to live. They use energy to move into the sun and to get some of their warmth. So here in the polar bear, it shows that the polar bear has thick fur that keeps it from losing internal body heat to the cold air outside. And that turtle is sunbathing in order to keep his warmth. Lastly, living things need chemical energy to repair damage. If you get a scratch, it takes time to heal and goes away. Your body repairs the damage. Living things need chemical energy to repair damage to their bodies. The damage may be something you can see, such as a lizard that has a broken tail, or the damage may be something you cannot see. Sometimes parts inside of organisms, such as bones and organs, become harmed by energy or illness. Cells use chemical energy to make new, healthy tissue in the healing process. Living things need chemical energy to grow and reproduce. Plants and animals grow when their bodies produce new cells and tissues. They need energy for the growth process, and some organisms only grow for a short period of time, just after they are born. Other organisms, such as the bristlecone pine tree, grow throughout their entire lives. Bacteria almost never grow large enough to be seen by the unaided eye. However, they must use energy to make more bacteria. In this picture, it's showing a lizard that lost its tail, and it is using energy to repair itself to grow a new tail. Here are some questions to consider about the chapter we just read to kind of check for your own understanding. What do living organisms do with the matter they eat? So far, we learned that living organisms, they use the things they eat as energy. But what do they use that energy for? And how does it keep them healthy? What are the different type of organisms in the ecosystem? What do they do? Think back to what we learned. We talked about producers, consumers, and decomposers. So, what do they do in an ecosystem? What is the difference between a living organism like a sea cucumber versus a non-living object like a rock? How can you tell a sea cucumber is a living organism? Look back at the chapter to find out. You may click to the next slide when you're ready for our activity. All right, so today's activity that we are going to complete in our packet, it's activity page 1.1, and it says Library Scavenger Hunt. In the upper right-hand corner, it says to use with lesson 1, which today is lesson 1. So the directions, it says to use the library's resource to research a living thing. Now, being that libraries are of course closed during this time, you don't have to go to a library. You can just look a living organism up on the internet. So you're going to answer the questions about the living organism you chose to research. You're going to answer the first question, which states, which living thing did you choose? Then you're going to complete the chart to explain what makes your living thing alive. Again, you're going to answer each question. The first row asks, does it move, and if so, how? Second row, does it breathe or respire? If so, how? 3, is it sensitive to changes in the environment, like temperature changes? Does it grow? Does it reproduce? Does it get rid of waste? And does it take in or make nutrients? Don't forget that for every single question, you're answering that second question, how? Remember, how refers to either process or steps that something needs to take in order to make that happen. So when it's asking you a question, does it move? The how is you describing specifically how it moves. For example, if I was researching a snake, I would say that a snake does move, and a snake moves by slithering its body along the surface. Now this is very specific. I'm explaining exactly how a snake moves, and I'm using specific vocab to do that. So you're going to do that for this entire page. So again, the expectations are that you're writing in note-taken form is fine. Don't have to write in complete sentence, just note form. And make sure you're answering both of those questions that they are asking you in each row. Be sure to take detailed notes. This is to help you later. When you are finished with this page, what I would like you to do is to take a picture of it and then text it to Miss Corkins. My phone number can be found on our LifeWork packets or on the cover of your LifeWork folder. If you turn this in with a picture showing me that you completed the work, I will give every student a Grow Your Team point and kickboard. All right, 5th grade, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you learned lots today from our activity. I'll see you again next time. Bye.